Part 1. The room was quiet. Too quiet. Alex Carter shifted uncomfortably in his seat as he glanced around the circular chamber of the Galactic Council. The walls shimmered with holographic displays showing representatives from dozens of alien species, or at least they were supposed to. Right now, those displays were dark, empty. No one spoke. No one moved. It was as if the entire council had vanished into thin air. Alex leaned forward, his hands gripping the edge of the table. "Is this some kind of joke?" he asked aloud, though no one answered. His voice echoed faintly in the vast, dome-shaped room. He tapped the control panel in front of him, trying to reconnect with the other delegates. Nothing happened. The screen remained blank. Back on Earth, news of the strange event spread quickly. In New York City, Rachel Dawson sat in her small apartment staring at her computer screen. She had been following the council meeting remotely, hoping to hear updates about resource allocations for Earth's growing space programs. But instead of speeches or debates, all she saw was static, then silence. Rachel frowned and reached for her phone. Her fingers hovered over the screen as she debated calling Alex directly. Before she could decide, her phone buzzed. It was an alert from the Global Space Research Institute where she worked as an astrophysicist. "Urgent. Contact Dr. Dawson immediately," it read. She sighed and pressed the call button. Within moments, her boss's face appeared on the screen. "Rachel," he said without preamble, "have you heard about the council?" "Yes," she replied, rubbing her temples. "What's going on? Did their systems crash or something?" "We don't know yet," he admitted. "But this isn't just a technical issue. All communication channels are down, not just with the council, but with every major alien outpost we've ever contacted. Something big is happening and we need answers." Rachel felt a chill run down her spine. This wasn't normal, not even close. For decades, humanity had relied on its membership in the Galactic Council to navigate the complexities of interstellar politics. Now, suddenly, that lifeline was gone. Her thoughts turned to Alex. He had always been calm under pressure, the kind of person who thrived in high-stakes situations. If anyone could figure out what was going on, it was him. But there was no way to reach him. Whatever had happened, it seemed to have cut off all forms of contact. Rachel grabbed her coat and headed to the Institute. The streets were unusually busy for this time of night, filled with people glued to their phones or gathered in clusters discussing the latest developments. News outlets were already speculating wildly about what might have caused the council's disappearance. Some claimed it was a cyber attack by rogue factions within the galaxy. Others whispered about ancient prophecies predicting the end of civilization. By the time Rachel arrived at the Institute, the main conference room was packed. Scientists, engineers, and government officials huddled together, talking over one another in hushed tones. Rachel spotted Jacob Miller, a young engineer she often collaborated with, standing near the coffee machine. He looked pale but determined. "Any ideas?" she asked as she approached him. Jacob shook his head. "Nothing concrete, but I've been running simulations based on past anomalies. Whatever this is, it's not natural. Something, or someone, is behind it." Rachel nodded grimly. That much was obvious. What worried her most was how unprepared Earth seemed to be. Humanity had grown complacent, relying on the Council to handle galactic threats while focusing on internal affairs. Now faced with a crisis of unknown proportions, they were scrambling to catch up. As the meeting began, Rachel took her seat at the head of the table. A large screen displayed a map of known space, dotted with markers indicating alien territories and human colonies. One by one, reports came in confirming the same grim reality. No contact, no signals, nothing. It was as if the entire galaxy had gone dark. "We need to act fast," said General Harris, a grizzled military leader seated across from Rachel. "If this is an attack, we can't afford to wait around for them to come to us." "But we don't even know who they are," Rachel countered, "or why this is happening. Jumping to conclusions will only make things worse." General Harris scowled but didn't argue further. Instead, he turned his attention to the rest of the group. "Fine. So, What do we do? Sit here and hope they come back? Rachel hesitated. The truth was she didn't have all the answers. None of them did. But sitting idle wasn't an option either. We start by gathering data, she said finally. There has to be a clue somewhere, a signal, a pattern, anything that can tell us what's going on. Over the next few hours, the team divided tasks. Rachel focused on analyzing recent astronomical observations, looking for anything unusual. Jacob worked alongside her, running algorithms to detect anomalies in cosmic radiation levels. Meanwhile, others coordinated efforts to boost Earth's defense systems, preparing for the worst-case scenario. Hours passed, then days. Sleep became a luxury none of them could afford. Every lead turned into a dead end, every theory disproven. Frustration mounted, but Rachel refused to give up. Somewhere out there, she knew, was a piece of the puzzle waiting to be found. Then, late one night, Jacob rushed into the lab holding a printout. "I think I've got something," he said breathlessly. "Look at this." Rachel took the paper and scanned the data. At first glance, it seemed like random noise, background interference picked up by deep space telescopes. But as she studied it more closely, a pattern emerged, a faint rhythmic pulse repeating at regular intervals. "Where's it coming from?" she asked, her heart racing. Jacob pointed to a spot on the star map. "Out near the edge of known space, beyond the Council's territory." Rachel stared at the location, her mind racing. Could this be connected to the Council's disappearance? Was it a message or a warning? Whatever it was clear they couldn't ignore it. Earth needed answers, and this might be their only chance to find them. Part 2. The discovery of the mysterious signal sent a wave of urgency through the Global Space Research Institute. Rachel Dawson stood in front of the large screen in the main conference room, pointing to the blinking dot on the star map that marked the source of the strange pulse. Her voice was calm but firm as she addressed the team. "This signal is our best lead," she said. "It's coming from deep space, far beyond anything we've explored before. We need to investigate it." Jacob Miller nodded, his eyes glued to the data scrolling across his tablet. "The pattern is consistent," he added. "Whatever this is, it's not random, it's deliberate." General Harris, who had been pacing near the back of the room, stopped abruptly. "How do we know it's not a trap?" he asked, crossing his arms. "For all we know, this could be a lure set by whoever took out the Galactic Council." Rachel turned to face him. "We don't," she admitted. "But staying here and doing nothing won't help us figure that out. If this signal leads us to answers about the Council, about what happened, we can't ignore it." The general frowned but didn't argue further. Instead, he glanced at the others in the room. "If we're going to do this, we'll need a plan, and a crew willing to take the risk." By the end of the meeting, a decision had been made. Earth would send a small reconnaissance mission to investigate the signal. Leading the mission would be Captain Laura Hayes, a seasoned astronaut known for her steady leadership under pressure. Laura had spent years commanding missions to nearby planets and moons, making her the obvious choice for such a critical task. The ship chosen for the journey was the Nova Horizon, a state-of-the-art vessel designed for long-distance space travel. It wasn't heavily armed like a military cruiser, but it was fast and equipped with advanced scanning technology. Alongside Laura, the crew included Jacob, whose expertise in engineering would be invaluable, and Marcus Lowe, a linguist tasked with deciphering any potential messages they might encounter. Dr. Emily Blake, a xenobiologist fascinated by alien life forms, rounded out the team. While no one knew what or who they might find at the source of the signal, Emily's skills could prove crucial if they encountered unfamiliar organisms or environments. Preparations for the mission began immediately. Supplies were loaded onto the Nova Horizon, including food, medical kits, and spare parts for repairs. The team worked tirelessly, knowing time was of the essence. Every day they delayed increased the chances of another attack, or worse, complete isolation for Earth. As the launch date approached, Rachel met privately with Laura to discuss the mission. They sat together in a quiet corner of the institute, surrounded by stacks of research papers and maps of the galaxy. "Remember," Rachel said, leaning forward, This isn't just about finding answers. It's about keeping your team safe. If things get dangerous, you pull back. No heroics. Laura gave a small smile. I'll do my best, she promised. But if there's even a chance we can save the Council, or prevent whatever happened to them from reaching Earth, I have to try. Rachel nodded, though worry lingered in her expression. She trusted Laura completely, but the risks were undeniable. This mission could change everything, or end in disaster. On the morning of the launch, crowds gathered outside the spaceport to watch the Nova Horizon lift off. News outlets broadcast the event live, capturing images of the sleek ship gleaming under the sun. For many people, this felt like humanity's last hope, a desperate gamble against an unknown enemy. Inside the cockpit, Laura gripped the controls, her focus sharp despite the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. Beside her, Jacob monitored the ship's systems while Marcus reviewed language databases, ready for any communication attempts. In the rear compartment, Emily double-checked her equipment, ensuring she was prepared for whatever awaited them. The countdown began, each second ticking away with mounting tension. When the engines roared to life, the ground trembled beneath the crowd's feet. With a burst of flames and smoke, the Nova Horizon ascended into the sky, leaving Earth behind. Theme rare. Journey to the signal's origin would take months. During that time, the crew settled into a routine, balancing work with brief moments of rest. Days blurred into weeks as they traveled farther from home than any human had gone before. The vast emptiness of space stretched endlessly around them, a reminder of how small and fragile their mission truly was. One evening, as the ship drifted silently through the void, Marcus joined Laura in the observation deck. Together they gazed out at the stars, their reflections faintly visible in the glass. "Do you ever wonder what we'll find out there?" Marcus asked softly. Laura hesitated before answering. "Every day," she admitted. "Sometimes I think about the worst-case scenarios. Other times, I let myself imagine we'll come back heroes having saved the galaxy." Marcus chuckled. "Heroes, huh? That sounds nice." They stood in silence for a while, lost in thought. Both knew the odds were uncertain, but deep down, they also knew this mission mattered, not just for Earth, but for everyone who called the galaxy home. Weeks later, the Nova Horizon finally reached its destination. On the view screen, a massive structure loomed in the darkness, an enormous sphere covered in glowing carvings that pulsed faintly with light. The signal grew stronger as they approached, resonating through the ship like a heartbeat. Laura's voice broke the stunned silence. "This is it," she said, her tone steady despite the awe in her eyes. "Let's see what secrets it holds." With careful precision, the Nova Horizon maneuvered closer to the sphere. Sensors scanned its surface, detecting no signs of immediate danger. After a brief discussion, Laura decided to lead a landing party inside, hoping to uncover clues about the fate of the Galactic Council. As the airlock opened and the team stepped onto the sphere's surface, a sense of unease settled over them. The carvings seemed to shift subtly under the light of their suits' headlamps, as if alive. Each step echoed loudly in the stillness, amplifying the feeling of being watched. Ahead, a dark opening led into the sphere's interior. Taking a deep breath, Laura motioned for the team to follow her inside. Whatever awaited them beyond the threshold, they were ready, or as ready as they could be, to face it. Part 3. The landing party stepped cautiously into the sphere, their headlamps cutting through the thick darkness. The air inside was cool and still, carrying a faint metallic tang that made Emily wrinkle her nose beneath her helmet. The walls of the chamber were smooth and covered in intricate carvings that glowed faintly, pulsing in rhythm with the signal they had been tracking. Laura led the way, her movements deliberate as she scanned the area with her handheld device. "Stay close," she said over the comms. "We don't know what's waiting for us in here." Jacob adjusted the settings on his scanner, trying to make sense of the readings. "There's some kind of energy field all around us," he reported. "It's weak, but it's definitely there. Could be why our sensors couldn't get a clear picture from orbit." Marcus trailed slightly behind the group, his eyes fixed on the glowing symbols. These markings, they're not just decorative, he murmured. They look like they're part of a language, maybe even multiple languages layered on top of each other. Emily crouched down to examine the floor, running her gloved fingers over the surface. This material, it doesn't match anything I've seen before. It's not rock or metal, feels more like glass, but denser. As they moved deeper into the structure, the carvings began to change. What had started as abstract patterns now formed shapes, figures that looked vaguely humanoid, though distorted and elongated. Some of the figures appeared to be reaching out, their arms stretched toward something unseen. Others seemed frozen mid-motion, as if caught in moments of panic or pain. Laura paused, her light catching something ahead. "What is that?" she asked, pointing her lamp at an object resting against the far wall. The team approached cautiously. It was a pedestal, about waist-high, with a crystalline orb resting on top. The orb shimmered faintly, its surface rippling like liquid despite being solid to the touch. As they drew closer, the signal grew louder, resonating in their helmets and making their ears buzz. "Don't touch it," Laura warned sharply when Jacob instinctively reached out. He pulled his hand back quickly, nodding in agreement. Marcus leaned in to study the orb, squinting at the shifting patterns within. "This might be the source of the signal," he said. "But I can't tell what it's saying, if it's saying anything at all." Emily frowned, tilting her head. "It almost feels alive," she said quietly. "Like it's watching us." Before anyone could respond, the ground beneath them trembled slightly. A low hum filled the chamber, growing louder by the second. The carvings on the walls began to glow, brighter, casting eerie shadows across the space. "We need to move," Laura said firmly, gripping her scanner. "Now." They hurried forward, following the path deeper into the sphere. The corridor twisted and turned unpredictably, leading them into a vast open chamber. Here the carvings covered every surface, creating a kaleidoscope of light and shadow. In the center of the room stood a massive statue, a towering figure, with multiple limbs and a face that seemed to shift depending on where you stood. Around the base of the statue lay dozens of smaller objects. At first glance, they looked like stones or debris, but as the team approached, they realized the truth. These weren't rocks, they were bodies, or what remained of them. Emily gasped, stumbling back. "Oh no," she whispered, her voice trembling. She knelt beside one of the forms, examining it carefully. The body was brittle and translucent, like it had been turned to crystal. Its features were frozen in an expression of terror. "These beings, whatever happened to them, it drained them completely," Emily said, her voice shaking. "Their energy, their life force, it's gone." Jacob ran his scanner over the remains, his brow furrowed. "This isn't natural decomposition," he muttered. "It's like something sucked the essence right out of them." Laura clenched her jaw, her mind racing. If this was the fate of whoever had come here before them, then they were dealing with something far beyond their understanding. And if they weren't careful, they could end up the same way. "Keep moving," she ordered, her tone leaving no room for argument. "We need to find answers, and fast." As they continued exploring the chamber, Marcus noticed something unusual near the base of the statue. A faint outline of a door barely visible against the glowing carvings. He motioned for the others to join him. "This has to lead somewhere," he said, pressing his palm against the outline. To everyone's surprise, the door slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a narrow passageway beyond. Inside, the air was colder and the walls were lined with shelves holding strange artifacts. Some items looked like tools or weapons, while others defied explanation entirely. One shelf held rows of small orbs similar to the one they'd seen earlier, each glowing faintly with different colors. Emily picked up one of the orbs, turning it over in her hands. "These must be important," she said. "They're everywhere." Suddenly, a raspy voice echoed through the passageway, startling the group. "Who dares disturb this place?" They spun around, searching for the source of the sound. From the shadows emerged a frail figure, An alien, its skin pale and cracked, its limbs trembling with age. Its large, sunken eyes locked onto the team, filled with both curiosity and sorrow. "I am Zinara," it said, its voice weak but steady. "Survivor of the Devourer's wrath." Laura took a cautious step forward. "Zinara, can you tell us what happened? Here? Where is the Galactic Council?" Zinara's gaze darkened. "The Council? They came seeking power," it replied. "But instead they found death. The Devourer consumes all who enter its domain, feeding on their energy until nothing remains." Jacob exchanged a worried glance with Emily. "What is the Devourer?" he asked. Zinara hesitated, as if reluctant to speak further. Finally it said, "A being of pure hunger. It exists only to consume, to grow stronger with every civilization it destroys. Once it targets a species, there is no escape." Laura swallowed, hard, her mind racing. "Is it still here? Inside this sphere?" Zinara shook its head slowly. "No. It moves between worlds, leaving ruins in its wake. But it will return. Always. It returns." The weight of Zinara's words hung heavy in the air. They had come looking for answers, but what they found was far worse than they had imagined. Humanity wasn't just facing a political crisis. It was staring down the barrel of extinction. "We need to warn Earth," Laura said finally, her voice firm despite the fear bubbling beneath the surface. "If this thing is coming for us, we have to prepare." Zinara nodded solemnly. "You are brave to face the truth," it said. "But bravery alone will not save you. You must find a way to stop the Devourer, or all will be lost." With that, the alien turned and shuffled away, disappearing into the shadows. The team stood in silence, the reality of their situation sinking in. Whatever hope they had clung to before now felt fragile, almost foolish. Laura broke the silence first. "Let's gather what we can and get back to the ship," she said. "Earth needs to know what's coming." As they retraced their steps through the labyrinthine corridors, the glowing carvings seemed to pulse faster, as if urging them to hurry. Each step felt heavier than the last, the oppressive weight of the sphere pressing down on them. When they finally emerged back onto the surface, the Nova horizon loomed above them like a beacon of safety. But none of them felt relief, not yet. They knew the real challenge was only beginning. HFY War. The Nova horizon hummed softly as it broke free from the sphere's orbit, carrying its crew back toward Earth. Inside the ship, the mood was somber. The team sat in the main cabin, their faces pale and drawn after what they had witnessed inside the mysterious structure. Zinara's warning echoed in their minds, a grim reminder of the threat looming over humanity. Laura leaned back in her chair, staring at the star map displayed on the main screen. Her hands rested on the table, fingers drumming nervously against the surface. "We need to figure out how to fight this thing," she said finally, breaking the silence. "If we don't, Earth won't stand a chance." Jacob nodded, his eyes glued to the data he had collected during their time on the sphere. "From what Zinara told us, the Devourer isn't just some alien warship or weapon. It's a being that feeds on energy. That makes it harder to target." Emily chimed in, her voice quiet but steady. "And it doesn't just consume physical energy. It takes life force, whatever that means. Those crystallized bodies we saw, they weren't just dead. They were hollowed out, like the Devourer drained every bit of them." Marcus rubbed his temples, trying to process everything they had learned. Zinara mentioned something about cycles. It moves between worlds, leaving destruction behind. If that's true, then the Galactic Council wasn't its first victim, and Earth won't be its last. Laura sighed, running a hand through her hair. "So we're dealing with something ancient, powerful, and unstoppable." Great. Despite the overwhelming odds, none of them gave up hope entirely. They knew that humanity's survival depended on finding a solution, no matter how impossible it seemed. For hours, they brainstormed ideas, tossing theories back and forth in search of anything that might give them an edge. Back on Earth, Rachel Dawson waited anxiously for news from the Nova horizon. She spent most of her time in the Institute's control room, monitoring incoming transmissions and analyzing data sent by the crew. When Laura's report finally arrived, Rachel listened intently, her expression growing darker with each word. Once the transmission ended, Rachel turned to General Harris, who stood nearby. "This changes everything," she said, her voice tight with urgency. "If the Devourer is real, and I think it is, we're facing extinction unless we act fast." Harris crossed his arms, his jaw clenched. "What do you suggest? We can't exactly fight something that eats civilizations for breakfast." Rachel hesitated, her mind racing. "Maybe we don't have to fight it directly. What if we focus on defense instead? Something that can repel or redirect its attacks?" The general raised an eyebrow. "Repel it? With what? Magic shields?" Rachel ignored his sarcasm. "Think about it. The Devourer consumes energy, right? What if we could create a device that amplifies and reflects that energy back at it, like a mirror bouncing light? If we overload its system, maybe we can neutralize it." Harris frowned, considering the idea. It was risky, untested, and borderline insane, but it was also the only plan they had. "All right," he said reluctantly. "Let's see what your team can come up with." Rachel immediately assembled a task force to design and build the device she called the Resonance Amplifier. Engineers, physicists, and programmers worked around the clock, pooling their knowledge and resources to bring her vision to life. Blueprints were drawn, prototypes tested, and failures analyzed until they finally had a working model. Meanwhile, panic spread across Earth as news of the Devourer leaked to the public. Social media erupted with speculation and fear, while governments scrambled to prepare for the worst. Some cities declared states of emergency, stockpiling food and supplies in underground bunkers. Others held mass prayer sessions hoping for divine intervention. Amidst the chaos, Rachel remained focused. She knew that hysteria wouldn't save anyone. Only science and teamwork could turn the tide. Every day, she pushed herself harder, pouring all her energy into refining the resonance amplifier. Sleep became a luxury she couldn't afford. Meals were skipped, and coffee became her constant companion. One evening, as Rachel reviewed the latest test results, Jacob called in from the Nova Horizon. His face appeared on the screen, looking tired but determined. "We've reached the midpoint of our journey," he reported. "Everything's holding together so far, but we're keeping an eye out for any signs of trouble." "How are the others holding up?" Rachel asked. "They're okay considering everything," Jacob replied. "Laura's doing her best to keep morale up, but it's tough. None of us expected, well, you know." Rachel nodded sympathetically. "Just stay safe, and let me know if you pick up anything unusual on your scanners." "Will do," Jacob promised before signing off. As the days passed, construction on the resonance amplifier neared completion. The massive device resembled a satellite dish, with layers of reflective panels designed to amplify energy waves. It was mounted atop a specially reinforced platform near the equator, where it could harness solar power to boost its output. General Harris oversaw final preparations, coordinating with military units stationed nearby. Troops trained tirelessly, readying themselves for whatever might come next. Anti-aircraft systems were upgraded, missile silos restocked, and drones prepped for deployment. Humanity was preparing for war, not against another species, but against an entity that defied comprehension. On board the Nova Horizon, the crew entered the final leg of their journey. Tension filled the air as they approached Earth's orbit. Laura stood in the cockpit gazing out at the blue-green planet below. Despite everything, she felt a flicker of hope. They had done their part, bringing vital information back to Earth. Now it was up to the people below to use it wisely. As the ship descended, the team prepared for debriefing. They rehearsed their story, ensuring they could convey the gravity of the situation without causing unnecessary panic. When the Nova Horizon touched down at the spaceport, Rachel and a team of officials were waiting to greet them. Laura stepped off the ship first, followed by Jacob, Marcus, and Emily. Their faces were weary but resolute. Rachel approached them, her expression a mix of relief and concern. "You made it," she said simply, offering a small smile. We did, Laura replied, but we brought bad news with us. Rachel nodded. I know. Let's get inside and talk. Time is running out. The group moved quickly to the nearest conference room, where maps, charts, and diagrams covered the walls. Over the next few hours, they shared everything they had learned. The sphere, Zinara, the crystallized remains, and the Devourer itself. Each detail painted a clearer picture of the threat humanity faced. When the briefing ended, Rachel stood and addressed the room. This isn't just about survival anymore, she said firmly. It's about proving that we're more than prey. The Devaver thinks it can wipe us out like it did the Galactic Council, but we're different. We adapt, we innovate, and we fight back. Her words resonated with everyone present, reigniting a spark of determination. For the first time since the Council's disappearance, there was a sense of purpose, a belief that humanity could rise to meet this challenge. Outside, the sky darkened as night fell. Stars twinkled overhead, distant and indifferent. Somewhere out there, the Devourer lurked, biding its time before striking again. But Earth was ready, or as ready as it could be. In the days that followed, the resonance amplifier went live, its panels gleaming under the sun. Sensors monitored the skies constantly, searching for any sign of the Devourer's approach. Military forces stood on high alert, weapons locked and loaded. Humanity had taken its first step toward survival. The question now was whether it would be enough, or if the galaxy's newest defenders would fall like so many others before them. Part 5. The days leading up to the Devourer's arrival felt like a lifetime. Across Earth, people prepared in their own ways. Some barricaded themselves in basements, praying they would survive. Others took to the streets, protesting or demanding answers from world leaders. Meanwhile, Rachel Dawson and her team worked tirelessly, ensuring that every piece of the resonance amplifier was functioning perfectly. In the control room at the Global Space Research Institute, screens displayed real-time data from satellites and telescopes scanning the edges of known space. Jacob Miller sat hunched over his keyboard, his eyes darting between monitors as he analyzed patterns in cosmic radiation. Beside him, Marcus Lowe pored over notes about Zinara's language, hoping to uncover hidden meanings that might offer additional clues. Emily Blake had returned to her lab, studying samples brought back from the sphere. She spent hours examining the crystalline orbs, trying to understand how they worked. Her experiments revealed faint traces of energy within them, residual power left behind by whatever process had created them. Though she couldn't fully decipher their purpose, she believed they were connected to the Devourer's feeding mechanism. Laura Hayes, now back on Earth, joined Rachel and General Harris in coordinating global defense efforts. The military had positioned fleets of drones around major cities, ready to intercept any attacks. Anti-aircraft systems lined coastlines and borders, while underground bunkers housed critical supplies and personnel. Despite these preparations, Laura knew conventional weapons wouldn't be enough against the Devourer. Their only hope lay with the resonance amplifier. As the days passed, tension mounted. News outlets reported sightings of strange phenomena near the edge of Earth's solar system. Unexplained bursts of light, gravitational anomalies, and communications blackouts. Each report fueled public panic, but Rachel refused to let fear dictate humanity's response. We need to stay focused, she told the team during one of their daily briefings. Panic won't stop the Devourer. Science will. Her words inspired confidence even as uncertainty loomed large. Everyone understood the stakes. Failure meant extinction. Success meant survival, but perhaps not without cost. Then, late one night, the unthinkable happened. Sensors detected movement, a massive shadow emerging from hyperspace. It moved fast, faster than anything humanity had ever encountered. Within minutes, it crossed into Earth's solar system, heading straight for the planet. Rachel rushed into the control room, her heart pounding. Is it here? She asked breathlessly. Jacob nodded grimly, pointing to the main screen. A dark shape filled the display, blotting out stars as it approached. The object wasn't a ship or a missile. It was alive. Its surface rippled like liquid metal, shifting and pulsating as if breathing. At its core glowed a faint red light, pulsing rhythmically like a heartbeat. "That's it," Laura whispered, her voice barely audible. "That's the Devourer." The room fell silent as everyone stared at the screen. For all their planning and preparation, nothing could have truly prepared them for this moment. The Devourer was unlike anything they had imagined, a being that defied logic and reason, existing solely to consume. General Harris broke the silence. "Activate the resonance amplifier," he ordered sharply. "Now." Technicians sprang into action, flipping switches and entering commands. Outside, the amplifier hummed to life, its panels glowing brightly as it absorbed sunlight and converted it into amplified energy waves. The machine was designed to reflect the Devourer's own power back at it, hopefully overwhelming its system and neutralizing the threat. But the Devourer didn't slow down. Instead, it unleashed a torrent of energy, obliterating satellites and defense systems in its path. Cities plunged into darkness as power grids failed. Oceans churned violently, and skies lit up with eerie flashes of light. Panic erupted worldwide as people realized the end was near, or so they thought. Inside the control room, Rachel monitored the situation closely. "It's targeting our infrastructure," she said urgently. "We need to buy more time for the amplifier to charge." Laura stepped forward, determination etched on her face. "I'll lead the distraction," she volunteered. "The Nova Horizon is still operational. I can draw it away from Earth long enough for you to finish charging the amplifier." "No," Rachel protested. "It's too dangerous. We've already lost too many people." "It's the only way," Laura insisted. "If we don't do this, billions will die. Trust me, I know what I'm doing." After a tense moment of hesitation, Rachel reluctantly agreed. "Be careful," she said, her voice trembling. "Come back alive." With that, Laura sprinted toward the hangar where the Nova Horizon awaited. The crew scrambled aboard, strapping themselves in as engines roared to life. Moments later, the ship launched into the sky, hurtling toward the Devourer. From the ground, Rachel watched anxiously as the Nova Horizon flew directly into the entity's maw. The Devourer reacted instantly, redirecting its attention to the tiny vessel. Beams of energy shot out, striking the ship repeatedly. But Laura skillfully maneuvered the Nova Horizon, dodging each attack while luring the creature farther from Earth. Back at the Institute, the resonance amplifier reached full capacity. Technicians gave the signal, and Rachel flipped the final switch. A deafening hum filled the air as waves of amplified energy surged outward, striking the Devourer with incredible force. The entity convulsed violently, its surface cracking and splintering under the strain. On board the Nova Horizon, alarms blared as the ship shook violently. Laura gripped the controls tightly, knowing she had mere seconds to escape. With one final burst of speed, she guided the ship out of harm's way just as the Devourer imploded. A blinding flash of light illuminated the sky, followed by an eerie silence. For a moment, no one spoke. Then, slowly, cheers erupted in the control room. Against all odds, humanity had succeeded. Rachel sank into a chair, tears streaming down her face. They had done it. They had saved Earth. But the victory came at a cost. The Nova Horizon limped back to Earth, battered but intact. Laura emerged from the ship, exhausted but alive, greeted by applause from the team. As dawn broke over the horizon, casting golden light across the planet, Rachel gazed upward. The stars twinkled innocently, unaware of the battle that had just taken place. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge, and prevailed. But deep down, Rachel knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, and there were still mysteries waiting to be uncovered. For now, though, Earth was safe. And for the first time in weeks, Rachel allowed herself to feel a glimmer of hope. The aftermath of the battle left Earth in a state of both relief and disbelief. The Devourer was gone, destroyed by humanity's ingenuity and sacrifice, but its presence had left scars that would take years to heal. Cities lay darkened, power grids were crippled, and millions mourned the loss of loved ones caught in the chaos. Yet amidst the devastation there was also hope. Humanity had faced an unimaginable threat and emerged victorious. Rachel Dawson stood on the rooftop of the Global Space Research Institute, staring out at the horizon. The sun had risen, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. It felt surreal to see such beauty after the horrors of the night before. Her mind replayed the events over and over: the Nova Horizon's daring flight, the resonance amplifier's activation, and the blinding flash that signaled the Devourer's end. She couldn't shake the weight of responsibility she carried, knowing how close they had come to failure. Below her, teams worked tirelessly to restore order. Engineers repaired damaged infrastructure, while aid workers distributed food and supplies to those in need. News outlets broadcast updates around the clock, celebrating humanity's triumph but warning of the long road ahead. Rachel knew the real challenge wasn't over. It had only just begun. In the days that followed, Laura Hayes became a symbol of courage for billions. Her decision to pilot the Nova Horizon into the heart of danger inspired countless stories of bravery and resilience. Interviews with her aired globally, and people hung on her every word as she described the harrowing moments leading up to the Devourer's destruction. "It wasn't about being brave," Laura said during one interview. "It was about doing what needed to be done. We all played a part. Scientists, soldiers, ordinary citizens. This victory belongs to everyone." Despite the praise, Laura remained humble. She spent most of her time assisting recovery efforts, visiting affected areas, and comforting survivors. Though physically exhausted, she refused to rest until she was certain Earth was stable again. Meanwhile, Jacob Miller and Marcus Lowe continued analyzing data collected during the mission. They pored over recordings of the Devourer's movements, studying its behavior in hopes of understanding why it had targeted Earth. Their research revealed patterns suggesting the entity operated on cycles, seeking out advanced civilizations once they reached a certain level of technological development. "This isn't random," Jacob explained during a meeting with Rachel and the team. "It's methodical. The Devourer waits until a species becomes powerful enough to pose a threat, or useful as fuel. Then it strikes." Rachel nodded thoughtfully. "So we're lucky it didn't find us sooner." "Maybe," Marcus added cautiously. "But we still don't know if this is truly the end." Zainara mentioned cycles, plural. "What if there are more like the Devourer out there?" The room fell silent as everyone considered the implications. Defeating one enemy didn't mean humanity was safe. If anything, their victory had proven how vulnerable they were in the vastness of space. Emily Blake focused her attention on the crystalline orbs brought back from the sphere. Using advanced imaging techniques, she discovered traces of organic material embedded within them. These remnants matched DNA sequences found in the preserved bodies inside the structure, confirming her earlier theory. The orbs were vessels created by the Devourer to store energy extracted from its victims. "This thing doesn't just consume life force," Emily told the group during another briefing. "It processes it, converts it into something usable. That's why the orbs glow. They're full of stolen energy." Her findings raised unsettling questions. Could the Devourer's power source be replicated? Was it possible to harness similar technology for Earth's benefit? Or would tampering with such forces invite disaster? Rachel dismissed the idea immediately. "We've seen what happens when we try to exploit unknown forces," she said firmly. "Look where Curiosity got the Galactic Council. We can't make the same mistakes." General Harris agreed, though his tone was grim. "For now, our priority is defense. If another Devourer shows up, we need to be ready." With that goal in mind, work began on upgrading Earth's defenses. The success of the resonance amplifier proved that humanity could defend itself against even the most formidable threats, if given enough time and resources. Governments pooled funding to build additional amplifiers, positioning them strategically across the globe. Military units trained rigorously, preparing for scenarios involving extraterrestrial attacks. Public sentiment shifted as well. Once content, to rely on the Galactic Council for protection Many people now advocated for greater self-reliance. Protests erupted outside government buildings, demanding transparency and accountability. Citizens wanted answers. Why hadn't Earth been warned about the Devourer? What other dangers lurked beyond the stars? Rachel addressed these concerns during a televised speech, speaking directly to the people. "We cannot change the past," she admitted, "but we can shape the future. The Devourer showed us how fragile our existence is, but it also showed us how strong we can be when we unite. Together we will rebuild, learn, and grow stronger than ever before." Her words resonated deeply, sparking a wave of determination across the planet. Communities came together, pooling resources and skills to accelerate recovery efforts. Schools reopened, businesses resumed operations, and life slowly returned to normal, or as close to normal as possible under the circumstances. Yet beneath the surface, tensions simmered. Not everyone shared Rachel's optimism. Some feared the Devourer's return, convinced that humanity's victory had merely delayed the inevitable. Others questioned whether Earth should remain part of the galactic community at all, arguing that isolation might be safer than risking further contact with alien civilizations. These debates reached a fever pitch when news arrived of survivors from other worlds reaching out to Earth. Fragments of transmissions intercepted by deep space telescopes hinted at refugees fleeing the Devourer's path of destruction. Images showed ruined planets, barren landscapes littered with crystallized remains eerily similar to those found inside the sphere. Rachel studied the data carefully, her expression unreadable. "They're asking for help," she said finally. "What do you think we should do?" Laura spoke up first. "We owe them. Without Zanara's warning, we wouldn't have stood a chance." General Harris frowned. "Helping them could expose us to new threats. How do we know they're not hiding?" "Something?" Rachel sighed, rubbing her temples. "I understand your concerns, but turning away survivors won't protect us. If anything, it'll make us weaker. Unity is our greatest strength, both here on Earth and beyond." After much deliberation, Earth's leaders decided to extend aid to the survivors. Teams were dispatched to establish communication channels and coordinate rescue missions. For the first time in history, humanity took on the role of protector, offering sanctuary to those displaced by cosmic horrors. As weeks turned into months, Earth transformed. The scars of battle faded, replaced by symbols of resilience. Monuments were erected to honor the fallen, and schools introduced lessons on interstellar diplomacy and planetary defense. People looked to the stars not with fear, but with cautious optimism. Rachel often found herself reflecting on how far they had come. From a minor player in the Galactic Council to a beacon of hope for the galaxy, humanity had defied expectations. But she knew their journey was far from over. The universe was vast and full of mysteries, some beautiful, others terrifying. And, though Earth had proven its strength, it still had much to learn. One evening, as Rachel gazed up at the night sky, she felt a sense of peace wash over her. Somewhere out there among the endless stars lay untold wonders and dangers. Whatever challenges awaited, she knew humanity would face them together, not as passive observers, but as active participants in the story of the cosmos. And so, a new chapter began, not just for Earth, but for all who dared to dream among the stars. Part 7. Months passed since the Devourer's defeat, and Earth settled into a fragile sense of normalcy. The scars left by the attack were still visible: ruined cities, depleted resources, and grieving families. But humanity had begun to rebuild. Rachel Dawson spent her days overseeing recovery efforts, ensuring that lessons learned from the battle shaped Earth's future. She knew the galaxy was vast and unpredictable, and she refused to let complacency take root. One afternoon, Rachel sat in her office at the Global Space Research Institute, reviewing reports about survivors from other worlds. Refugees had begun arriving in small numbers, their ships battered and engines sputtering as they limped toward Earth. Each group carried stories of loss and survival, tales of civilizations wiped out by the Devourer or other unknown threats, lurking beyond the stars. These people need more than shelter, Rachel said aloud, though no one else was in the room. They need hope. She turned to her computer and opened a file labeled Project Unity. It outlined plans for a massive humanitarian effort aimed at integrating alien refugees into Earth's society, while simultaneously learning from their experiences. Scientists, linguists, and engineers worked together to decode alien technologies and adapt them for human use. The project wasn't just about helping others, it was about preparing Earth for whatever came next. Laura Hayes stopped by Rachel's office later that day, carrying a stack of papers under her arm. Her face was tired but determined, as it often was these days. "We've got another group incoming," she announced. "This time they're bringing something unusual, a device they claim can detect anomalies like the Devover." Rachel raised an eyebrow. "A detector? That could be useful, if it works." "It's worth checking out," Laura replied. "The refugees say it helped them avoid destruction for years. They want to share it with us." Rachel nodded thoughtfully. "Set up a meeting with their leader. I'll gather the team." Next morning, Rachel, Laura, Jacob Miller, Marcus Lowe, and Emily Blake gathered in a conference room to meet the refugee delegation. Their leader, an elderly alien named Kale, stood at the front of the room, his frail frame supported by a hovering, mechanical brace. His skin shimmered faintly, reflecting light in hues of blue and green, and his large eyes scanned the humans with curiosity. "Thank you for welcoming us," Kale began, his voice soft but steady. "Your bravery saved not only your world, but ours as well. We owe you our lives." Rachel smiled warmly. "You don't owe us anything. Helping others is what we do." Kyle bowed slightly before continuing. "As a gesture of gratitude, we bring you this." He gestured to a sleek metallic device resting on the table between them. It resembled a sphere, similar to the ones found inside the mysterious structure, but smaller and covered in intricate patterns. "This is called the Sentinel Core," Kale explained. "It detects energy signatures associated with entities like the Devourer. When danger approaches, it emits a warning signal." Jacob leaned forward, his eyes lighting up with excitement. "Can we examine it?" he asked eagerly. Kale hesitated briefly before nodding. "Of course. But be careful. Its mechanisms are delicate." Over the following days, the team studied the Sentinel Core meticulously. Emily used microscopes and imaging tools to analyze its structure, while Jacob and Marcus worked together to decipher its programming. What they discovered astonished them. The core operated on principles far beyond human understanding, harnessing quantum mechanics in ways that defied explanation. "It's incredible," Jacob muttered, staring at streams of data scrolling across his screen. "This thing doesn't just detect anomalies, it predicts them, like it knows where threats will appear before they even form." Marcus frowned, rubbing his chin. "That kind of foresight would have been invaluable during the battle. If we'd known the Devover was coming," Rachel interrupted gently. "Let's focus on what we can do now. With the Sentinel Core, we might be able to prevent future attacks, or at least prepare for them." As work on the core progressed, tensions rose elsewhere. General Harris grew increasingly wary of relying too heavily on alien technology. "We don't know who built this thing," he argued during a heated meeting. "What if it's a trap? What if it leads another threat straight to us?" Rachel understood his concerns but remained steadfast. "Every tool carries risks," she countered. "But ignoring opportunities because of fear won't keep us safe. We need to learn how to use this, not reject it outright." Harris grumbled, but eventually relented, agreeing to allow limited testing of the Sentinel Core under strict supervision. Meanwhile, public opinion remained divided. Some hailed the refugees as heroes, praising their contributions to Earth's defense. Others viewed them with suspicion, accusing them of ulterior motives. Amidst the debates, strange occurrences began cropping up around the globe. Reports poured in of unexplained phenomena, flashes of light in the sky, sudden power outages, and bizarre weather patterns. At first, many dismissed these incidents as unrelated anomalies, but Rachel couldn't shake the feeling that something larger was at play. "We need to monitor this closely," she told Jacob during a late-night conversation. "If the Sentinel Corps picks up anything unusual, let me know immediately." Sure enough, within days the device emitted a low hum, a warning signal. Jacob rushed into Rachel's office, his face pale. "Something's coming," he said breathlessly. "The Corps detected a massive energy spike near the edge of our solar system." Rachel's heart sank. "How big?" "Bigger than the Devourer," Jacob replied grimly. Panic spread quickly once the news reached General Harris. Military units mobilized, scrambling to position defenses around key locations. The resonance amplifier network powered up, ready to repel any threat. Refugees huddled in shelters, terrified that history was about to repeat itself. But this time humanity wasn't caught off guard. Thanks to the Sentinel Corps, they had time to prepare and strategize. Laura volunteered to lead reconnaissance efforts, piloting the Nova Horizon toward the source of the energy spike. "I'll get eyes on it," she promised. "If it's hostile, we'll know before it reaches Earth." Before departing, Rachel pulled Laura aside. "Promise me you'll come back," she said, her voice trembling. "We've already lost too much." Laura placed a reassuring hand on Rachel's shoulder. "I promise," she said firmly, "and I'll make sure Earth stays safe." The Nova Horizon launched into space, its crew bracing for the unknown. As they approached the anomaly, sensors revealed a massive entity unlike anything they had encountered before. It wasn't a single being like the Devourer. Instead, it appeared to be a swarm of smaller creatures, each glowing with intense energy. "They're communicating," Marcus observed, analyzing the signals emanating from the swarm. "Some kind of hive mind." Emily shuddered. "If they act as one, we're in trouble." Laura guided the ship closer, gathering as much data as possible. Suddenly, the swarm surged forward, heading directly for Earth. Alarms blared as the crew scrambled to evade, but the creatures moved faster than expected. Back on Earth, Rachel monitored the situation anxiously. "Activate the amplifiers," she ordered. "Now." Technicians flipped switches, sending waves of amplified energy toward the swarm. To everyone's relief, the tactic worked. The creatures recoiled, breaking formation as their energy fields destabilized. But the victory was short-lived. Moments later, the swarm regrouped, adapting to the attack. "They're learning," Jacob said urgently. "We can't keep hitting them with the same strategy." Rachel clenched her fists, her mind racing. "Then, we improvise." With seconds to spare, Laura returned to Earth, relaying critical information about the swarm's weaknesses. Combining this intel with the Sentinel Corps' predictive abilities, the team devised a new plan. Instead of targeting the entire swarm, they focused on disrupting its communication network, effectively severing the connection between individual creatures. The combined assault proved devastating. One by one, the glowing forms dissolved into nothingness, leaving behind only silence. When the last creature vanished, cheers erupted across Earth. Once again, humanity had triumphed. Exhausted but relieved, Rachel stepped outside to watch the sunrise. The sky was clear, free of the ominous shadows that had haunted it for so long. For the first time in months, she allowed herself to breathe deeply, letting the weight of responsibility lift slightly. Earth had faced two cosmic threats, and survived both. But Rachel knew better than anyone that the galaxy held countless mysteries yet to be uncovered. Humanity's journey was far from over. Still, she couldn't help but feel proud. Against all odds, they had proven themselves capable of standing tall among the stars. And as she gazed upward, she felt a spark of determination ignite within her. Whatever challenges lay ahead, Earth would face them, not with fear, but with courage and unity. Part 8. The victory over the swarm brought a renewed sense of hope to Earth, but it also left humanity with questions that couldn't be ignored. Rachel Dawson stood on the rooftop of the Global Space Research Institute once again, staring up at the stars. The night sky was calm now, free of the chaos and danger that had plagued it for months. Yet Rachel knew better than to let her guard down completely. The galaxy was vast, unpredictable, and full of mysteries, some beautiful, others terrifying. In the weeks following the battle, Earth's leaders worked tirelessly to ensure the planet would never be caught unprepared again. The resonance amplifier network expanded, with new installations positioned strategically across continents. Military forces trained rigorously, incorporating lessons learned from both encounters with extraterrestrial threats. Refugees from other worlds continued to arrive, bringing knowledge, skills, and stories of survival that enriched humanity's understanding of the cosmos. But perhaps the most significant change came in the way people viewed themselves, and their place among the stars. Once content to rely on the Galactic Council for guidance and protection, humanity now embraced its role as an independent force within the galaxy. Schools introduced courses on interstellar diplomacy, planetary defense, and xenobiology. Innovators collaborated with alien refugees to develop technologies inspired by discoveries made during the crises. Slowly but surely, Earth transformed into a hub of resilience and ingenuity. Rachel often found herself reflecting on how far they had come. From a minor player in the Galactic Council to a beacon of hope for survivors scattered across the stars, humanity had defied expectations. But she knew their journey wasn't over. Each challenge they faced revealed new truths about the universe and about themselves. One evening, Rachel sat in her office reviewing reports about ongoing recovery efforts when Jacob Miller knocked on the door. His face was flushed with excitement, his hands clutching a tablet filled with data. "You need to see this," he said breathlessly. Rachel set aside her papers and gestured for him to sit. "What is it?" "It's the Sentinel Core," Jacob explained, tapping the screen to display streams of information. "We've been analyzing its programming more closely, trying to understand how it predicts anomalies, and we found something unexpected." Rachel leaned forward, intrigued. "Go on." Jacob hesitated before continuing. "The core isn't just detecting threats, it's mapping them, like it knows where they originate. According to this, there's a pattern to these attacks. They're not random, they're part of a larger system." "A system?" Rachel repeated, frowning. "What kind of system?" "That's the thing. We don't know yet," Jacob admitted. "But based on what we've seen so far, it seems like certain regions of space are more prone to hosting entities like the Devourer or the Swarm. If we can identify those areas, we might be able to avoid them, or even neutralize the threats before they reach us." Rachel's mind raced. If Jacob was right, then humanity wasn't just reacting anymore. They could start taking proactive measures. But such an endeavor would require resources, cooperation, and courage. She glanced at the star map displayed on her wall, imagining the countless dangers lurking beyond the familiar constellations. "This changes everything," she murmured. "If we can map these threats, we can protect not just Earth but other civilizations too." Word of the discovery spread quickly, sparking debate among world leaders. Some argued that Earth should focus solely on its own survival, while others believed humanity had a moral obligation to help others. Rachel sided with the latter group, advocating for a bold initiative she called Project Beacon. "The galaxy needs a guardian," she told a gathering of officials. "For centuries, the Galactic Council failed to protect its members. Now, it's our turn to step up. With the Sentinel Core and the Resonance Amplifier, we have the tools to make a difference. Let's use them." Her words resonated deeply, igniting a wave of support. Nations pooled resources to fund Project Beacon, which aimed to establish early warning systems throughout known space. Teams of scientists, engineers, and diplomats worked together to deploy satellites equipped with advanced sensors, creating a network capable of detecting and responding to cosmic threats. Meanwhile, Laura Hayes took charge of training crews for deep space missions. Pilots, engineers, and researchers volunteered in droves, eager to contribute to humanity's growing legacy. The Nova Horizon underwent extensive upgrades, becoming faster, stronger, and better equipped to handle whatever challenges lay ahead. As Earth prepared for its new role, communication channels opened with surviving alien civilizations. Messages of gratitude poured in from distant worlds, praising humanity's bravery and generosity. Refugees who had once feared rejection found acceptance and purpose, integrating into society and sharing their unique perspectives. Among them was Kale, the elderly alien who had gifted the Sentinel Corps. He became a trusted advisor to Rachel, offering insights into the galaxy's history and the nature of the threats humanity faced. Together they pored over ancient texts and artifacts, piecing together clues that hinted at a greater truth. A cycle of destruction and rebirth, orchestrated by forces beyond comprehension. "These patterns aren't natural," Kyle said one day, pointing to a star chart marked with anomalies. "Something or someone is guiding them." Rachel nodded thoughtfully. "If that's true, then we're not just fighting monsters. We're challenging the balance of the universe itself." Kale smiled faintly. "Perhaps, but sometimes balance must be disrupted to create something better." Rachel carried those words with her as she oversaw the final stages of Project Beacon, when the first satellite launched into orbit, marking the beginning of Earth's interstellar guardianship. She felt a surge of pride. Humanity had risen from the ashes of fear and despair to become a force for good, not just for itself, but for all who dared to dream among the stars. Years passed, and Earth's influence grew. Survivors from across the galaxy rallied around the blue-green planet, united by a shared vision of peace and progress. New alliances formed, old rivalries dissolved, and the scars of past battles faded into memory. Humanity's name became synonymous with resilience, innovation, and compassion. On a quiet evening, Rachel returned to the rooftop where she had spent so many nights contemplating the future. The stars twinkled innocently above, unaware of the battles fought and won in their shadow. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to feel truly at peace. Below her, cities buzzed with life, their lights glowing brightly against the darkness. Children played in parks, couples strolled hand in hand, and scientists worked late into the night, driven by curiosity and ambition. Earth was thriving, not despite its struggles, but because of them. Rachel smiled softly, feeling a sense of fulfillment wash over her. Humanity had proven itself capable of standing tall among the stars. And though the road ahead remained uncertain, she knew they would face it together with courage, unity, and hope. As she gazed upward, she whispered a silent promise to the universe. "We're ready." Part 8. The victory over the swarm brought a renewed sense of hope to Earth, but it also left humanity with questions that couldn't be ignored. Rachel Dawson stood on the rooftop of the Global Space Research Institute once again, staring up at the stars. The night sky was calm now, free of the chaos and danger that had plagued it for months. Yet Rachel knew better than to let her guard down completely. The galaxy was vast, unpredictable, and full of mysteries, some beautiful, others terrifying. In the weeks following the battle, Earth's leaders worked tirelessly to ensure the planet would never be caught unprepared again. The resonance amplifier network expanded, with new installations positioned strategically across continents. Military forces trained rigorously, incorporating lessons learned from both encounters with extraterrestrial threats. Refugees from other worlds continued to arrive, bringing knowledge, skills, and stories of survival that enriched humanity's understanding of the cosmos. But perhaps the most significant change came in the way people viewed themselves, and their place among the stars. Once content to rely on the Galactic Council for guidance and protection, humanity now embraced its role as an independent force within the galaxy. Schools introduced courses on interstellar diplomacy, planetary defense, and xenobiology. Innovators collaborated with alien refugees to develop technologies inspired by discoveries made during the crises. Slowly but surely, Earth transformed into a hub of resilience and ingenuity. Rachel often found herself reflecting on how far they had come. From a minor player in the Galactic Council to a beacon of hope for survivors scattered across the stars, humanity had defied expectations. But she knew their journey wasn't over. Each challenge they faced revealed new truths about the universe and about themselves. One evening, Rachel sat in her office reviewing reports about ongoing recovery efforts when Jacob Miller knocked on the door. His face was flushed with excitement, his hands clutching a tablet filled with data. "You need to see this," he said breathlessly. Rachel set aside her papers and gestured for him to sit. "What is it?" "It's the Sentinel Core," Jacob explained, tapping the screen to display streams of information. "We've been analyzing its programming more closely, trying to understand how it predicts anomalies, and we found something unexpected."